Raise your hand if you have a rock collection. Okay, awesome. Raise your other hand if you have a rock tumbler, if you've ever tumbled rocks. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do for this assembly is I'm going to show you, I'm an artist. What I like to do is I take rocks, and you know how you use scissors to cut paper? I have this special saw that I use, and instead of cutting paper, I cut rocks. So here, let me show you what I mean by I cut rocks. So this is by my house. I have this little rock garden. I go and I take rocks that I think will be pretty. Sometimes they're amazing on the inside. Sometimes they're kind of boring. So I take the pretty ones and then I trace the heart onto them. And then I go back to my saw and I cut it about 30 times. I sped the video up so that you wouldn't get bored, but it really takes about 10 to 20 minutes for me to cut a rock and make one heart, just like this. So I go out and I make hearts, and I make a whole bunch of hearts. And you want to know what I do with them? I give them to kids. Would you like one? Awesome. I want to show you, so right here I have a bin, and every single bag has 10 hearts in it. I did that so I could count it really easily. This right here is 500 hand-carved, heart-shaped rocks. Most of them are orange. It's a stone called a carnelian. And what I'd like you to do is this. Listen to me here during the assembly. I'm going to show you how I make them, and then I'm going to show you what I like to do with the hearts and see if I can inspire you to maybe go out and do something similar. And then after the assembly's over, I'm going to take all of these heart rocks and I'm going to give them to your principal. And then they're going to give them to the teachers. And then the teachers are going to take them to class and let you choose one to keep. I want you to take it home with you and keep it your whole life. Okay, I see a few of you have questions. Hold on to the end and I'll see if I can get to your questions, okay? Otherwise your hands will get really tired. When you do get your heart rock, I want you to hold it up to the light. A lot of these rocks are translucent, which means light will shine through them. So if you hold the heart rock up to the light, sometimes the light will shine through and you'll find crystals and things inside of the stone. Okay? So tell me again, who wants a heart rock? Okay, awesome. Should we give a heart rock to each of the grown-ups too? Yeah. Did you know that grown-ups are just kids that got big? Did you know that? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So here, I'm going to show you a couple of things, and then I'm going to share some stories. Okay? So this is one thing that I'm going to talk about a whole bunch. It spells N-I-C-E. Here's a question for you. When someone's been nice to you, how does it make you feel? Happy. But let's flip that over. When you're nice to someone else, how does that make you feel? Happy. Yeah, okay. So that's kind of the secret. I want to talk about being N-I-C-E. And part of that is learning to notice the people or see the people that are around you and then taking interest in them. The opposite of taking interest in something is ignoring it. Like I just heard that announcement, I'm just going to ignore it. Instead of listening to it, I'm just going to ignore it. The opposite of that is taking interest. So here's a cool story, you guys. One time I was having a really bad day a couple years ago. So I made a heart rock, and instead of giving it to someone else, I kept it to be my reminder that I'm a good person and that things will be okay. And I put it in my pocket. I like to play basketball. And so I went to go to watch a basketball team play in their arena. So I drove up and I parked my car, and there was thousands of people walking on the sidewalk to go watch this basketball game. And I was kind of feeling a little bit anxious and nervous. So what I did is I held on to the heart rock in my pocket as I was walking on the crowded sidewalk, and it helped me feel a little bit better. And as I was walking, I heard something that sounded kind of weird. I wasn't sure what it was. And I saw behind the bus stop, you know, they'll have a bench where people can sit and wait for the bus. And sometimes they have a little roof, a little shelter to keep them out of the rain. I noticed behind the bus stop, there was a lady, and she was down like this, and she was crying really, really hard. And so I heard her crying, and I saw her, so I noticed her, and I did what every single person on the sidewalk did. I ignored her. I left her there crying, and I just kept walking because I was going to go to the basketball game. I got about 50 feet away, and I stopped, and I realized I've felt that way before. I've been sad too. So I turned around, and I walked back, and I went behind the bus stop, and I said something kind of silly. I said, "It looks like you're having a bad day." She looked up at me, and she nodded. And then I said, "I've felt that way before too. And so I'd like you to have this as a gift." And I pulled the little heart rock out of my pocket. It was blue, kind of like the one from the video. And I said, "I've had this for 2 years to remind me when I'm having a bad day that things will be okay and that I'm loved and I'm not alone. And I'd like you to have it now." And I handed her the little heart rock, and she held it really tight. And while she was looking at the heart rock, I looked at her, and I realized she wasn't wearing shoes. And I looked at her, and she was really kind of dirty. And she was wearing a blouse and a skirt. And she told me the reason why she was so sad is because she didn't have any family. She didn't have a home. She didn't have a car. She had a shopping cart that had a tent in it and a sleeping bag, and that was where she lived. But somebody had stolen her shopping cart. So she was there crying because she was all alone, and all she had in the whole world was her blouse and her skirt. And then I gave her the heart rock, and she said, "I'm going to keep this my whole life to remember that somebody cares and that things will be okay." And we talked a little bit, and do you want to know what her name was? I wish I knew what her name was. I didn't ask her. I think about her often, but we talked a little bit, and then I left, and I went to the basketball game. I wonder if she still has that heart rock. Do you think she might still have it? It's been like a year. Maybe she still has it. Okay, so see what I'm saying? I was nice to her because I noticed her, and then I saw her, and then I took what's called compassion and empathy. I felt what she feels, and then I did something to help her. Raise your hand if you've ever been nice to someone. Awesome. Raise your hand if you were nice to someone and it helped them. Raise your hand if you were nice to someone and it helped them and it helped you feel good too. Okay, I think you guys have learned my secret. Let's move on to the next one. So here's something kind of funny. I like to go to schools and give kids the heart rocks, and I've been telling people, create kindness and reach out to people. And then recently I realized if I flip that around, it spells a word. What word does it spell? Rock, just like the heart rock that I'm going to give you. Rock, reach out and create kindness. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this real fast. I'm going to do it with another story. So right here is just a quick video in the background of how I was making heart rocks. I like to go on walks, and I was walking past my neighbor's house, and on the driveway, her daughter was standing there, and she said, "My mom's really sick." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then I kept walking, and I was like, "Oh, that was kind of funny." And as I was on my walk, I thought, if her mom is sick, she's been nice to us, so I'm going to do something nice for her. So I carved some heart rocks. It was really cold outside, so instead of letting them dry in the sun, I put them in the toaster oven. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm toasting the heart rocks. After I dried them out, I sprayed them with a clear spray paint so that I could make the colors pop, and I walked over to her house. I didn't want to risk getting sick, so I put the heart rock on the door, and then guess what I did? I ran away. I just left it on the door and I ran home. The next day, my wife and I got a text message. It says, "Tom and Becca," that's my wife, Thank you so much for the heart rock today. I've had strep throat this week and have just felt so miserable. This was a sweet and tender gift to get from wonderful friends. Bless you both and all that you do for others. You want to know something really cool? So you know how I did something nice for that family? Then they did something nice for me. And then I went and I left another heart rock on the porch. And then they did something nice for us. They invited us over to their house for ice cream. And then I left more hearts on the porch. And every time I would drive by, all the kids would wave and say hello. And we became really, really good friends. It was awesome. Here's a question for you. Have you ever said something funny and then somebody else laughed? Yes. And then because they were laughing, you laughed? And then they laughed harder, and then you laughed harder, and then they laughed harder, and you couldn't stop laughing, and then you're laughing so hard that you start to cry. Have you ever experienced that? Isn't that the best? Here's something kind of cool, you guys. If you think about it, remember the last time that you gave someone a hug? You reached out with your arms, and you gave them a squeeze, and you know what they did? They reached out and they gave you a hug back. When you hug someone, you also receive a hug. When you do something nice for someone else or create a happy, fun surprise for them, oftentimes something nice happens to you too. Can I tell you another fun story? Raise your hand if you've ever played on the playground. Okay? Raise your hand if you like to go down the slide. How about the swings? Who likes to go on the swings? Who likes to play tag on the playground? Okay, that was me too. So a few weeks ago, I was feeling kind of sad. So I decided to help myself feel happy. I was going to make a nice surprise for some kids. So I made a whole bunch of heart rocks, and then I went to the park where they had the playground, and I filled my pockets up with heart rocks. I went up the stairs, across the bridge, and at the top of the slide, I hid a heart rock on the playground. Then I went down the slide and I hid a heart rock at the bottom of the slide. And I put one on each of the swings and I hid them all over the playground and on the monkey bars and everywhere. And then I went and I sat down on a bench and I started to read a book. And I waited and I waited and I waited for somebody to come to the playground. And then this minivan came driving up really fast. And before the car even came to a stop, the door opened. And the kids came running out of the car. And this little boy, he was the fastest. He was maybe 5 or 6 years old. He went up the stairs, across the bridge, and down the slide. And guess what he found? A heart rock. And he was so excited. He was holding it and he was looking at it. And he was so excited, he started to dance. He found a heart rock. And then he looked at the heart rock. And he looked at his mom as she got out of the car. And he looked at the heart rock. And he looked at his mom. And he had an idea. What do you think his idea was? He walked over and he gave it to his mom. And she looked at it and he gave her a big hug. And I didn't hear what he said, but I think he said something nice. And you know what the mom did? She held the heart up and she was so happy, she started to dance. Isn't it so funny? So the little boy goes back to the playground and he starts playing. And the mom went over and she sat on the swing. But she found something. What did she find? A heart rock. So she looked at it, and she looked at her son, and she looked at it, and she went over and she gave it to him. And then the sisters found heart rocks. And this family, suddenly they're looking all over the playground looking for heart rocks. And they were so excited. And I heard them talking. And the mom said, why don't we give some of these heart rocks to Grandma and Grandpa? They'd been having a hard time, so the family decided, let's give some of these away. Imagine me sitting on that bench with the book. How do you think it made me feel watching them finding the hearts and feeling so happy? Do you think it made me feel happy, or did it make me feel super, ultra, mega happy? Super, ultra, mega happy. And that's the best kind of happy. But remember the beginning of the story? I told you something. How was I feeling that day? I was feeling kind of sad. I was having a bad day. I've got a question for you. Have you ever had a bad day or a sad day or a day that was just kind of stinky? Raise your hand if you've ever had a day that was like that. Raise both hands if you've ever had a week that was just kind of awful. Wave your hands if you've ever had a month that was just kind of one you wish never happened. It looks like a lot of people have had bad days sometimes. It's okay to have a bad day. And here's an important thing, okay? I'm going to whisper it to you. Even when you have a bad day, you're still a good person. And if you apply this secret of creating kindness and happy surprises for other people, it can take your bad day and turn it into a super, ultra, mega happy day. Okay? Should I show you some other videos or tell some stories or both? Okay? So can you find me in this picture? I'll give you a hint. I'm not in the boat. I wanted to be in the boat. We were rafting down this river. My dad's wearing the floppy hat. My brother-in-law was in the back of the boat. He was really big and strong. And then in the green shirt with the black hat, that was our river guide. And then in the front of the boat, laughing, is my sister. And then me in the water, that's me. The river guide, I was sitting right here in this seat, and he said, we're going to go over this huge rapid, and Tom, I need you to dig the paddle down in deep. Otherwise, the whole raft might flip over. So I dug my paddle down deep. We hit the rapid. The raft didn't flip over, but suddenly I was flying through the air, and I splashed in the water. And can I tell you a secret? What? I don't like to get wet. I was wearing a life jacket, so I was safe. But I didn't want to be in the water, and the river was so busy that I was a little bit scared. And so I went underwater, and I popped back up, and look what I'm doing. I'm reaching out because I realized I needed help. I couldn't get myself out of the water. The raft, they tried to catch up to me, and it took almost a mile, about 15 minutes for them to catch up with me. By the time the boat got up, I was so tired from all the swimming, I couldn't pull myself back in the boat. So this is what happened. In the back of the boat, my brother-in-law, see, he's really big and strong. I reached out for him to help pull me in the boat, and instead of grabbing my hand, he grabbed me by my vest like this. And he lifted me out of the water like I was a baby, and he shook the water off of me, and then dropped me in the boat. Sometimes you're going to have a bad day, and you're going to be the one reaching out because you need some help. Oftentimes, you're going to be the big, strong, happy person that's in the boat, and your job is to look around and see who's in the water and who needs help getting back in the boat. And then your job is to reach down and pick them up, shake the water off, and then drop them back in the boat. Okay? That might look like maybe you're on the playground and you're playing with your friends and you see somebody and there's nobody playing with them. They're in the water and you're in the boat. What could you do? You could pick him up, shake him off, drop him on the playground, invite them to play with you. And you know what happens, you guys? It might seem like a really small thing. If you say, Tag, you're it, come play with us. You just made the entire world a better place by doing one little nice thing. Can I show you something kind of cool? So, here, I'm going to skip this video. I went to the hospital, and raise your hand if you've ever been to the hospital. Nobody likes to go to the hospital. You go there because you're sick, or maybe you're injured, or you're going to go visit somebody that doesn't want to be there. And when I was in my car in the parking lot, I was looking around, and there was about 150 cars, and I realized all of these cars were driven here by people, and they're inside the hospital now. Maybe they're hurt, or maybe they're visiting somebody, and I decided, I think I could do something nice to surprise these people. So I took a whole bunch of heart rocks and I walked around the parking lot and I put a heart rock on the driver's window of all of the cars. I got up to this one Jeep, and when I put a heart rock on it, it went clink on the window, and someone had left a dog in their car, and the dog went whoo to the window, and I jumped. There was another person in the car. They'd gone out to the car to cry because they were having such a hard day, but they didn't want anyone to see them, so they sat in the seat, and instead of sitting up, they leaned the chair all the way back so no one could see. So when I put the heart rock on the window, they sat up in the seat, and we made eye contact, and I was like, "Huh," and they were like, "Ha," and then they rolled their window up, and they rolled it down, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just putting a heart rock on all of these cars so that people have a happy surprise and know that somebody cares." And I handed them a little heart rock through the window of the car, and they said, "You have no idea how much I needed this right now." Their brother was in the hospital because he'd had an accident, and he was having a really hard time. And they said, instead of keeping this heart rock, I'm going to go give it to my brother. So you know what I did? I slid a second heart through the window so that she could keep one for her and give one to her brother. How do you think it made her brother feel when she gave him a heart rock? Happy. And how do you think it made her feel? Happy. And how do you think it made me feel? Yeah, super ultra mega happy. He got it. Perfect. So here's a question for you. What do you think happened to all the other hearts on the car? I wonder if maybe people kept them, or maybe they fell off the car and broke, or maybe they gave it to someone else. I don't know what happened, but do you think that we can all agree that probably some good things happened? And maybe it helped make some people happy. So does that mean that it was worth all that effort? Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to know why I drove for hours and hours and hours to come to your school to give each of you a little heart rock?
Make us happy. Make us super ultra mega happy.
I don't know you, and you don't know me, and we might not ever see each other ever again. But I hope every time you see your heart rock for the rest of your life, it reminds you that you are amazing. Your life is a miracle. Let me show you what I mean. I have a little boy. His name is Davy. This was him before he was born. We went to the hospital so that we could hear his heartbeat, but there was a problem. The nurse couldn't find it. So we waited and we waited and we waited, and I was kind of scared. And then we heard it. His heartbeat sounded like this. Thump, 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 thump. And we knew that he was alive. This was the first time that I ever held him in my arms, and it was a miracle. Did you know that his eyes can see trillions of colors? And the colors he sees are different than all of the colors that any human being on earth has ever seen. Did you know that his ears can hear so many sounds, and his heart and his lungs and his stomach and everything works together perfectly so that he can be alive? And because he's alive, it's a miracle. And the world is a better place because he is in it. I love him so much. But if it's true that he's a miracle and the world's better because he's in it, can you feel your heartbeat? Sometimes you can feel it in your chest. Another place is if you take 2 fingers and you put it underneath your jaw right here, kind of by your ear, you can feel your heartbeat. You can move the fingers around and you can feel it. There's another place you can feel it. On your hand, on the thumb side, you've got those funny little lines. Those are tendons. And on the outside of it, if you put 2 fingers just below your wrist, you can feel your heartbeat. For most people, your heartbeat is going to beat 60 to 80 times a minute. And when you're running with your friends and playing really hard on the playground, it might go up as high as 160, 180 heartbeats every single minute. And during your life, your heart will beat tens of millions of times. And you know what's really cool? Because your heart is beating, it means that you are alive. You are a miracle. And because you're alive, that means you have time. And you can use the time however you want to do amazing things. I've decided to use my time to cut rocks into hearts and then hide them on playgrounds. When I go through the drive-thru, raise your hand if you've ever been through the drive-thru. Yeah? When I go through the drive-thru, I order my food and I pay for it, and then when they hand me my food through the window of my car, guess what I hand to them? Not just one. I like to give them 10 hearts. They always say, "What's this for?" And I tell them, I want you to keep one of these heart rocks to remember for the rest of your life that you are amazing and this world is a better place because you're in it. And what do you think I tell them to do with the extra heart rocks? Give them away to other people. Imagine that you go through the drive-thru and you order your food and they hand you your food and your drink, and then they hand you a heart rock and say, "Here's your reminder that you're a good person." How would that make you feel? Yeah, super, ultra, mega happy, right? So, something I really like to do with my little boy Davy is I put him in his stroller and we go on walks. Something I like to do is I write little notes. Here's a reminder the world's a better place because you're in it. I put it on a piece of paper and I tape it with a heart rock, and then I hide it. And as we walk along the trail, I hide heart rocks. And then I walk 2 or 3 miles and I turn around, and as I'm walking home, I check my hiding places to see if people have found the heart rocks. The other day I was walking, and there was this little girl on the scooter, and she was going really fast, and then she stopped, and she picked up the heart rock, and she was looking at it, and she was so excited, and then she looked over at her mom, and she looked at the heart rock, and her mom, and then she went over and gave the heart rock to her mom. And you know what her mom did? She didn't dance. She started to cry. But was it sad tears or happy tears? It was happy tears, and that's the best kind of tears. And how do you think it made me feel when I saw that mom with the happy tears? Super, ultra, mega happy. I have handed out tens of thousands of little hearts to strangers and hid them in public places. And I have learned that when I tell someone else, "You are amazing," something inside of me says, "Tom, you're amazing too." When I say, "You're a good person and this world's a better place because you're in it," something inside of me says, "Tom, you're a good person too." Isn't it so cool that as we are kind and nice to other people, that we get so much happiness and good from it too? It makes me want to go home and make more heart rocks and hand out more of them. Have I convinced you guys to become stone carvers and make heart rocks and hand them out? Not yet, okay? So my goal is not to convince you all to become stone carvers. I want you to learn how to be nice and do it your way, and do it a lot. My way is making the heart rocks, but there is a way that you can help me. Raise your hand if you'd like to give a heart rock to a stranger. What about to maybe your mom or your dad or your grandma or your grandpa or your bus driver, your neighbors? Raise your hand if you had 100 heart rocks, if you could think of people to give them to. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could just be like, "Hey, you guys, here's 100,000 heart rocks," ploop, and just drop them on the stage, and then you guys could go hand them out. Think of what a difference it would make here in your community if we handed out a ton of them. Here's what we can do instead. I'm going to give you each a heart rock. And remember how I told you I use a piece of paper to trace a heart on the rock, and then I cut it out with my special saw? Do you remember how I told you that you can use scissors to cut paper? If I can use a saw to make heart rocks, you can use your heart rock and scissors to make paper hearts. And the best thing about paper hearts is you can draw pictures on them or write nice little notes. Before I left on a trip, I wanted to do something nice for my wife. She's my favorite person. And I wanted her to know that I loved her, and I wanted her to know when I wasn't home that I loved her. So I made these notes that say, "You're super mega loved," and I put them on her car. I put 2 of them down, and then I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I put a whole bunch of them? Here's a trick, you guys. If you take 2 3x5 cards and fold them in half and fold them in half again, and then trace half of the heart on it and cut it out, guess how many hearts it makes? It makes 8 paper hearts. And so just with 2 quick, easy cuts, you can make a whole bunch of paper hearts. I put them on her car, and then I had an idea. I decided to hide paper hearts all over the house. So I started cutting out all the paper hearts. I wrote notes on some of them, and some of them I left blank. And I made 30 of them. And guess whose shoes these are? It's my wife's shoes. Guess whose computer this is? So I went around putting paper hearts in all the places I thought she'd find them. This was on her pillow. Yeah, feed it to the cat, right? This is her little bag. I put them in her pocket and her backpack. Some of them are really, really good hiding places, like inside her favorite candle. This was a bad hiding place. We never found that one. This was a good hiding place. She eats yogurt for breakfast every single morning. So I put one on the yogurt, and then I did something bad. I put it inside the yogurt. It was a bad thing. Is this a good hiding place for a paper heart? Is this a better hiding place? How about here? Here? You know what's really funny is all the boys are like, yeah, and all the girls are like, gross. What if you cut a paper heart out of toilet paper and then just dropped it? I don't know. Maybe somebody test that out and let me know how that goes. So I want you to imagine that you're peeking through the window and my wife is finding all of these hearts. How would it make her feel? Happy. Yes. And then as I was driving to go where I was going, how do you think it made me feel knowing she was going to find those? Happy. Okay, I have a job for you. When I give you your heart rock, the assembly's basically over at this point. I'm going to give the heart rocks to your principal. They're going to give them to the teachers, and then you're going to get to each choose one. I want you to use your heart rock. I want you to keep it your whole life and give it away every day. The way you can do that is by tracing it and making paper hearts. I want you to go home and hide some paper hearts in your mom and dad's shoes. Put one on the pillow, put some in the fridge, put one on the toilet. Hide paper hearts all over the house. And then when your brothers and sisters and your mom and your dad and whoever is there, when they find the paper hearts and they say, "Did you put this in my shoe?" I want you to say, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Maybe they'll keep the paper heart their whole life. Maybe they'll put it on their fridge or keep it in their pocket or take it to work. And every time they see that paper heart, how are they going to feel? Happy. So if you make 10 paper hearts, if you go through the drive-thru and they hand you food, how would it make them feel if you handed them a paper heart? If you go to the playground and you hide paper hearts on the playground and kids find them, how's it going to make them feel? Okay, so you guys have figured out my secret. Let me show you one final thing, okay? If there is even the smallest chance that one of those paper hearts you make could help one person, isn't it worth all the effort? If I spend my entire life hiding heart rocks and giving them to people, and it helps one person, isn't it worth all the effort? Here's what I've learned after doing this for 7 years, is that person that gets helped when you help other people, it's you. And it's supposed to be you. You are a good person, and you are loved and seen, and this world is a better place because you're in it. It is always true. You are incredible, and your life is a miracle, and all of the good you do, that's bonus and helping to make the world even better. And you know who benefits from you being nice? You do. You give someone a hug, they hug you back. You do something nice and they feel good, and you feel good. You make a nice surprise for them and they're excited, and you're excited too. As you are kind to people, you become a kind person. And that's the kind of person that you want to be. That's the kind of person that your family needs. And that's the kind of friend that your friends need, and your school and your whole community. And it only takes one person to make this world a better place. And that person is you. And it's always been you. I hope that every time you see your Heart Rock for the rest of your life, you remember that you are amazing. I hope that when you're having a bad day, it reminds you that you're a good person and that things will be okay. I hope that you use it to make paper hearts, to remind other people that they are loved and seen and not alone. Raise your hand if you'd like a Heart Rock now. I think it's about time to give these kids Heart Rocks. Hey, you guys, will you do me a favor and make sure the grown-ups all get a Heart Rock too? Okay, perfect. And raise your hand if you will commit or make a promise to me that you will make at least 10 paper hearts to then hide or give away. Awesome. I think if everybody does, that'll be at least 2,000 paper hearts. But there's only like 800 people that live in this town. You guys could do something amazing with your paper hearts. I'm so excited to see what you do. Thank you so much for having me at your school.